fucking... what that means. It's not good, man. That's solid. I just have the music on. I've been checking. Go, 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 go. Shouldn't be. Hello? You're not gonna do it again? That's sweet. I know. I shouldn't have to do this every time. Sorry about that. It is on! Why is...
All right, everyone. We are here on a Tuesday. Wild, very different. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. After some crazy things happened yesterday, there were storms, there was life events, but we're here. We're going to finish up our Brotherhood talk on the day that Shadow of the Sith comes out, oddly enough. But it's like poetry. It rhymes. We're all here. We're all ready. And without any further ado, 24 hours late, West Budget! Hello, everyone! Welcome to the Living Force Youtini Network podcast, all about the Star Wars books you love and all their characters and their Easter eggs, and you know the drill by now. I'm one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me tonight to talk about all things Star Wars Brotherhood, yet again, is the full crew, albeit a day later than usual. First of all, we have Dr. Corey Helton. Hey, man,
Hello.
You were ready yesterday. I appreciate that.
I was ready yesterday. I thought I was going to have to host, and Wes didn't have any internet, and Charles is making moves, and
we just wanted you to be here after you were officially done. We wanted
That's it, guys.
Tell the people.
Today was my last day of work as a resident physician. I'm officially out on my own. It's fantastic. 3 years of residency are now behind me. Yeah, it is. Up here on my pedestal in my high horse. It's like it's really windy. Get some wind burn on my face.
3 years behind you and a million malpractice suits ahead of you. But another man who's ready for that is Dr. Charles Hankel.
Oh my goodness. I love that. I still have the protection of one more clinic shift tomorrow. Yeah. So that is going on. I may have bought a house yesterday for the first time.
Maybe.
All adult things. And that I was just commenting to the boys that if you're watching our YouTube stream, then we look significantly younger in our intro video than any of us do live anymore. So we're going to need to update that.
Yeah, we got to update that. I mean, you guys went through residency. I got AirPods. Like, things changed. But nothing is more consistent than the joy and the stability. Not necessarily internet connection, but the man himself, Wes Jenkins. Welcome back, dude.
Hello, everyone. You can see me. Not yesterday, but you can tonight. So I had a little internet trouble yesterday. Came home, there was nothing there. So unfortunately, we had to cancel yesterday, but that's why we have the show tonight. So after I was done with my workout at about 7:30, I had nothing to do. So I went to bed at around 8:15. I was just in bed. I was like, I don't have anything. What am I supposed to do? Like, go through the old pictures in my phone? I've done that before.
What do you people do at this point? Well, we're glad to have you back. We're glad to have you all here again. Welcome. If you are watching the show, we love you. If you're listening to the show, that love goes to you as well. Make sure to like the video, subscribe on all the podcast things, blah, blah, blah. You know how this goes right now. Because we have part 2 of a roundtable, we don't have as much news up top, but we did want to bring to light a couple things. First of all, we are a show that really tries to have as much fun and keep as light as possible, because I know that a lot of times life can get very hard. And for a lot of folks, it did this past week. If you're in the United States, you know that there was a lot of turmoil over a bunch of things, including the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And a lot of folks in the Star Wars community did come together and create what's called the What Choice fundraiser. As of this recording, I believe it's up over $40,000. And if you're like me, and this particular cause means a lot to you, I highly recommend you go check them out. Donate if you're able. Share and spread awareness if you'd like. Because again, if people are hurting or fearful, then there's always support to be found within this community. So if that is really speaking to you, as it did to a lot of us here, then we just wanted to let you know, because it's pretty cool when Star Wars folks are able to help each other out and put change into the world. So thank you all for that. Another thing we want to talk about is the last Obi-Wan episode, which we did, everyone, on Sunday. I think it was Sunday. It was Sunday.
It was Sunday.
We finished off our latest season of Bounty Hunt by talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 6. Go check that out if you'd like. But if you don't want to go back to watch our Bounty Hunt episodes, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. We still love you. You're here.
Put a lot of work into those. Watch them.
We do. But we did want to announce that next week on our July 4th show, which means something to a lot of our listeners and is a crushing defeat for some others. America. We will be doing a show all about the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, kind of going through the series as a whole, telling everyone kind of what we thought about it. And if you missed any of our recaps, we're going to be going through the whole series, some of our favorite moments, some of our biggest takeaways, and maybe telling you about some expanded universe type book things and maybe comic things that you might be able to read if you like the Obi-Wan show. Because come on, that thing was amazing. I think it was amazing. We all loved it.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, cannot wait for next week. Read Master and Apprentice, a short story by Claudia Gray, and from a certain point of view, just as a little hint. So that'll be next week on Monday. Today, however, it's Tuesday. It's so weird. Today is a Tuesday, which means it's a book release day at Youtini. That is a very big deal for us because Shadow of the Sith by Adam Christopher was released today, which means our whole site and this very YouTube channel got a ton of content today. We released the written review on the website where you can kind of read our full thoughts all about the book. We released a video review on the YouTube channel. If you don't maybe want to read, you can check it out visually that way. We also released a video interview where we were lucky enough to interview Adam Christopher himself. We talked about the writing process, about his history growing up as a writer, and we released that podcast. Dang it, I almost made it. That interview as a podcast on this very Living Force stream. It should be right below this episode when it releases. So if you want to hear Adam, who is just one of the most lovely spoken men, just a true joy. He was so gracious with his time and his stories. And if you do watch the video, you get to see some of his Legos, which were very cool behind him.
Collection. Yeah,
and he had the white Boba Fett helmet. The prototype helmet was up there.
Yeah. It was fun.
Dope.
He's got a good collection. When he first opened the call, he was like, he just had kind of a normal background. He's like, "Is this gonna be video?" We're like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, let me move," and he moves, and he's like all this Star Wars stuff behind him. It was a lot of fun. So
it was great.
That was cool.
Yeah. So thank you to Adam for being so gracious of your time. Thank you to Courtney over at Del Rey who helped us coordinate that. It was awesome working with this, and so we're glad that we get to celebrate that book today with all of you. And that roundtable will be coming, as they always do, about a month away from now. It's a little weird being in a roundtable episode talking about the next roundtable episode, but Charles, you're gonna have so much time coming up. It's gonna be fine, man. You're gonna be great. You're gonna be fine.
We'll be fine. Why is my voice getting all high and squeaky?
Oh, man. We also want to say a thank you to our lovely patrons at patreon.com/Youtini who continue their amazing support. And we have some new content for you all. We've been promising some behind the scenes of the Youtini workings and celebration content. And today, over on Patreon, you can find it both on the Patreon feed and within the All Patrons Discord channel. I edited a video. Very rudimentarily, but I did an unboxing of the High Republic exclusive box set. I kind of walked through my first impressions of it. I showed off how it looks inside. I talked about the squishy feeling of the covers. I said, "Oh wow," like many times. So if that's the kind of content you're interested in, that is up on our Patreon right now as a thank you to folks. You can kind of see our first impressions on that. And as always, if you want more of that content, tell us in Discord in our All Patrons channel. Let Timothy know, our Patreon manager, what you'd like to see, all that good stuff. All right, we're almost there. Before we get into the roundtable, we have one thing left, and it belongs in the Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
It's the Star Wars Weekly Roundup!
So, Wes and Corey specifically, remember how we were at Celebration last month?
Charles wasn't there. Do we need to remind him again?
That's definitely why he prefaced Wes and Corey.
Wes and Corey, yeah.
I know.
Let's talk about it.
Oh my god!
Oh, that was
Sorry,
Well,
Charles.
It has been...
I was like reaching.
You're in. You're back. So it's been so little time since Celebration. It feels like a lifetime. But it's about to feel a lot quicker, y'all, because Star Wars Celebration 2023 tickets are going on sale this Thursday, the 30th at 12 p.m. Eastern. So if you are listening to this in the audio feed, I hope you got them yesterday. Or if you're a patron and you're listening in the morning, hurry! It's soon.
Get in the queue. Everybody's already there.
So yeah, these are going on sale Thursday morning, 12 p.m. Eastern. There was a link that they put out through Star Wars Celebration. It told us all about the ticket prices for Jedi High Council? Jedi Master level, which is going to be 795 pounds, which
Holy
is, I think, like
smokes.
$84,000. The dollar is not helpful. There's also the 4-day adult pass, which is going to be 159 pounds. Realistically, that's about $190. So very similar, comparable to Anaheim. And then they go from there. A couple interesting things, though, is that they're not doing typical media badges like they did this past year, which were kind of crazy. There will be more information on that later. They're kind of incorporating the fan stage and the podcast stage and media stuff kind of all together. So folks that got media badges to last celebration, just kind of stay tuned. But I am definitely going to try to just get the 4-day to be safe. Fellas, how are we feeling about this being so soon, which does allow people to get air travel and early enough, and it's international, but
it makes sense. I mean, the reality is it's less than a year away, so it makes sense, I guess. But I have not mentally, physically, or emotionally recovered from celebration. Real talk.
We may never at this point. Maybe it's just a rolling level of when you're drunk, if you just keep having a drink just forever. You just never sober up.
I mean, my first reaction when they announced the tickets are going up on Thursday was not oh yes, you gotta get tickets. My first reaction was, ugh.
Yeah.
Literally.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know that I can spring to go overseas for next year, but everybody has already said, not everybody, but a lot of people have already said, yeah, we're going, we're doing it. We have accommodations, and I've already decided to do the 4-day pass, and I'm just oh my God, should I just get it?
I know.
Should I just buy it?
I mean,
and
listen,
the thing is, convince myself
Youtini,
9 months later to go.
I know. Youtini has people in the UK. We have Trevor and Frank who are both over there, right? And Trevor came all the way to California this year, so
spent less money than everybody.
He already said it all. We were giving him crap because the day that he was on the plane looking at accommodations, it was ridiculous. On the way back from celebration, we all gave him crap for that. We're Trevor, calm down. We have plenty of time. Well, Trevor being Trevor, he booked a whole bunch of apartments or something that are pretty close, like a block of 5 or 6 rooms or something crazy because he didn't have to put a down payment on it. And now we're all okay, I guess we need these. So it's working out great. So I don't know. I'm gonna try to go, and I think I'm gonna try to spring for the VIP ticket too. As crazy as that is,
go for it.
If I'm able to do it, I think I'm gonna try to. So
yeah,
we'll see. I mean, it sounds like monetarily it might work out, especially if you flip some exclusives. As crazy as it sounds. I know it sounds like we're
gonna find your shadow accounts, or you're flipping all these, but.
Those also sell out in the first 30 seconds. So I don't know.
Yes.
You almost have to know somebody. So we'll see.
We'll see what happens. Regardless, if you're watching us in the next 48 hours, we want you to know they are going there. Go to StarWarsCelebration.com. Check all that out. Be ready. Set yourself away from your desk. Do whatever you got to do at 12 p.m. Eastern on Thursday the 30th. Don't know if there's going to be a queuing situation like there was with lightning lanes, things like that.
Surely.
I'm sure whatever it is will be absolutely stressful and it'll be wild. Just have a game plan going in, have a backup plan, and have your credit card.
Do you guys remember the last time we bought Star Wars Celebration tickets? Do you guys remember that? It was
I was at a theater doing this. Yeah. I had them schedule the rehearsal around the block so I could make sure I wasn't on stage.
Jesus, Erica's still working in theater. Is that long ago? Smokes, dude. Was it Celebration? Was that the day that we were? It was the first or the second time we had tried live streaming and tickets went up, or was that the was that the movie? Or was that Celebration?
It was 2019. It was 2019. Or no, that was the movie when we were live streaming and the tickets went up. That's when the movie tickets went. And we all bought them live.
We all paused. So we had to we just stopped and ran. It was a 3-hour live stream or something stupid because we're all just working on the computer. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this was middle of the day.
Yeah.
So it'll be wild. I hope if you're trying to get tickets, may the force be with you. If you're not,
Charles, are you gonna try?
To be entirely honest with you, I don't know. I don't know
Jesus.
about leaving the country for it. I was definitely going to do it if it was in Orlando or in Anaheim, but I don't know. Maybe talk to me after the show. Talk to me
Talk
after.
you into it.
Yeah,
Talk you
I'm
into
sure
it.
you could.
We'll get a few drinks in you and be like, Charles, Europe. And just like see what happens. If you want Charles to go to Celebration, tell him in the chat and peer pressure him. But even if you're not going to Celebration, there's so many good Star Wars things to look forward to. But between now and then, from Disney Plus shows to all kinds of announcements like book announcements, and of course, if you want to stay up to date with books other than Brotherhood and Shadow of the Sith, which we got here, and I'm sure you already have, go to the Youtini.com release schedule and make sure you get your pre-orders in for Padawan by Kirsten White, which is coming out on July 26th. And one of my favorite things about book release days is I get to add the next book in line in this part of the show, which is The Princess and the Scoundrel by Beth Rivas, which is coming on August 16th. A romance book with Han and Leia. It's coming, everyone. So get those pre-orders in, get ready for the roundtables, and I'm sure we're all going to talk about them with each other at Celebration, with or without Charles. But I think that's it for now. Not a lot of news, thankfully, but now we can dive right back in to our talk about Brotherhood by Mike Chen. As a warning, if you were not here on last week's show, this will be full spoilers for the book. So if you haven't read it yet, give it a pause, finish it up, and then come on back. But for right now, Charles, back to you, man.
All right. So last week we covered some of the bigger characters. We talked about Anakin. We talked about Obi-Wan. We even found ourselves talking about Qui-Gon Jinn, who wasn't even in this book. But this week, I heard y'all loud and clear, specifically you, Cheryl. You want to talk about some of the other characters that are in this book, and I think we should. So we're going to actually start off with none other than Roog. Good old Roog.
Roog.
Great name.
Why you gotta be
If you
so rude?
Listen to the audiobook.
That.
They announce the character before every chapter, and I would say this in my house alone. I would just be Roog Quarnum. Roog Quarnum. And my dog was just like, "What is he doing?" Roog Quarnum.
It was so funny.
It sounds like when you're calling someone and they haven't really set up their voicemail, and it's like Roog Quarnum.
Yeah.
It's not available.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
Oh, man. All right. Well, we're going to talk about Roog, who, as a reminder or as some information for people who didn't read this book and are listening to this, she was one of the Neimoidian guards. And we have a couple of quotes from Roog here. First one from page 134, where she says, "I believe in the idea of the Trade Federation. When the Republic fails to recognize your homeworld as anything but an asset in shipping and commerce, you become a commodity and a statistic. I'll not let my life be a line item in a shipping manifest. With the Trade Federation, Neimoidians finally have a voice." Later on page 284, Roog says, "I love my homeworld," she said, turning to the screen above R2-D2. "I love my people. I've done so many terrible things on their behalf because I believe that they're worth it. You're right. I could go with you to Coruscant and become a negotiator, but my place is here. I've spent my life fighting on the inside for Neimoidians. Perhaps not always for the Trade Federation, but for my people. Whatever happens to me, I will continue to fight." So question number one, did Mike Chen successfully make you root for a Neimoidian? Yes, Eric,
Oh, yeah.
This is your moment to wax poetic about Roog Quarnum.
Yeah, man. I think Roog Quarnum is one of the most important new characters we've gotten in a long time in Star Wars. I think Mike Chen single-handedly used her as a vessel for talking about the trials of the Neimoidian people, for questioning the prejudices of the galaxy and fans as a whole against these whole people, and I think really used this character as a way for us to kind of look at any kind of larger fantasy story when it comes to like regions. Like every fantasy world has that like split up between nations and states and army versus army. Like that's fun. But this was such a great way to use Roog to be like, yes, I am living within this. There are problems with it, but these are still my people and we deserve to be heard. So I will help you, Jedi, but you also need to acknowledge the things you're doing wrong and not servicing all my people. And Obi-Wan's view of Roog, of being like, I just have to listen sometimes. I just have to take this in, even though I'm not the one doing it, is frankly, I think like one of the best on-page representations of allyship we've ever gotten in Star Wars. Loved her. Loved it.
Agree. I think there was something that he wrote in there that said that Obi-Wan was one of his best assets was being a good listener, which helped with Rogue as a character because he was trying to understand what was going on in Neimoidia. So good on him. I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Justin Krieger in the chat kind of like said what I was thinking. Actually, is like this is very much Cassian Andor vibes. Like these. Like that, especially that last quote you just read, Charles. Like I've done so many terrible things. I mean, that sounds exactly like his monologue in Rogue One, right? Like,
yeah.
So yeah, I totally think Mike Chen nailed this character. It was such a strong characterization of an alien, especially someone like a Neimoidian who we are kind of wired to hate because of Phantom Menace, right? And so like. Get this stunted filth out of my sight. that's what I think of with these Neimoidians, right? So, like, to get kind of a cool, badass, like sniper character was really fun, and she had a lot of depth too. I feel like, I mean, this character was very much a sort of an adjunct off of Obi-Wan for the plot to move along very nicely. I think.
Yeah. You bring up something important, I think, because y'all really kind of fleshed out there why Rogue worked as a character in terms of making you care about Neimoidians again. But I think she also had another really important role in this book. And the best way to kind of introduce that idea is with another quote from page 278. And it's Rogue talking about her partner. I said Ketar the whole time I read it. What is it again? It's something. It was said differently in the audio.
Is it Qatar?
It's Ketar.
It is Ketar. Okay.
It's Ketar.
Ketar, like the instrument.
Absolutely, the one that
keyboard.
Rick has from Legends Look Back.
Yeah.
That's how you pronounce it.
All right, he's a lot more fun now.
Ketar and Kevin, my two favorite Star Wars characters.
So Rogue is talking about Ketar, her more or less protege, on page 278, and says, I taught him, I mentored him, and I hoped to temper his rage by showing him how we do the work. I underestimated Ventress. The toe of her boot dug into the ground. Or perhaps I overestimated how much he listened to me. So how does Rogue's journey mentoring Ketar parallel Obi-Wan's relationship with Anakin? And what, if anything, do you think Obi-Wan takes away from watching that develop?
Oh, that's a beautiful parallelism that I realize is now intentional, but I hadn't thought about that until just now.
I mean,
there was some
Rogue
comments
is
about
standing
that.
over Ketar with the opportunity to kill him, much like Obi-Wan standing over Anakin on the banks of Mustafar, and she lets him live.
She does. That's a good point. I mean, I think Obi-Wan maybe sort of sees that like she failed and so can he in a lot of ways, right? That maybe he did fail Anakin. We talked about that a little bit last week of like maybe Obi-Wan did fail Anakin in some ways, but I think it's a very clear parallelism there. That's very interesting. You brought that up.
Yeah. You see the defiance in both of them, right? Defiance in Ketar, defiance in Anakin, but you also hope that they both learn from that. And you can see that Anakin learns a little bit, but Ketar doesn't seem like he's learned anything. Like he's listened, he's taken part of her skills and her lessons, but the mental aspect, I don't think that it's catching on at all. Especially because Ventress is there, just fanning that flame to get him to be kind of an anarchist.
Did Anakin either though? Did he get that stuff from Obi-Wan either? I mean, he sort of skipped all that stuff about what it means to actually be a Jedi too. I think in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Palpatine, obviously, it being the Ventress role.
It's all coming together. It's
it's wild how and I agree. I had thought about the echoes of it, but until you put it like that, Charles, it hadn't been that concrete to me. And now it's, oh my gosh, that's exactly what was happening. And for me, Ketar really kind of represented how easy it is to kind of turn extremist in a way. And I think that in a dark, realistic way, it reminded me a lot of like, whenever you hear like parents of people who do like terrible things, like, oh my gosh, how did this happen to my kid? Or like, I didn't know this was going on. Like, I love them. What's going on? And it's like, you don't understand how easy it is for someone, especially a younger person like a Ketar, if they just hear things, if they're like, yeah, you're angry, be angry at this person, be angry at the Jedi, be angry at the Republic, be angry, be angry, be angry, they hate you, they hate you, they hate you. It doesn't take that much to really push them to do some really horrid things. I mean, he went from, I want to defend my people and be a good Neimoidian to like, maybe I do need to like blow up a ton of buildings. And it really didn't take a whole lot. And I'm like, man, I mean, as I was reading, I'm like, I'm a little uncomfortable in, I think, a legitimate way for how realistic this feels. And I think there are a lot of things, like whether it be a dark side Jedi, or whether it be like, you know, these crazy cringy like subgenre YouTube cults that like, you know, put out these things and tell people like, you should be angry at this person, you should be angry at this person. How does that build until you get to the arena scene where Kitar is like, I don't care what's real anymore. I don't care if he did it or not. I care how he makes us feel and how I need to make the galaxy feel. Like, and to watch Roog see that happen, similar to Obi-Wan watching it happen with Anakin, is like, no matter what's real anymore, he has been convinced by darker powers that are way more convincing than me that I am the enemy, that this is the way to go. And oh my God, how did I miss it? And it's like,
yeah,
it's so chilling. And it's only, you know,
that whole build a bomb sequence was like particularly chilling. I think that was dark,
uncomfortable. Right, Eric?
Yeah, I got real uncomfortable listening to that. I was like, this is like kind of too real for me right now. I don't like this at all. Like, she was just like, I think you need to take action. He's like sweating and like tense, and I'm just like, oh dear.
She's just like, it's no big deal. Nobody's gonna be there. You just need to make a scene.
Yeah,
and then he was like justifying it, like, oh, okay, so I'm just trying to create some action here. No one's gonna get hurt. And he's like, you know what? It kind of sounds like a good idea. And you're like, you can see how people can get talked into stuff like that. And it's yeah,
I didn't like that at all.
But it did. You're right, Wes. It started as one bomb in like some like representatives building who's never in the office.
That's right.
And then everything else must have happened off screen, or, you know, whatever, off page, because the next thing you know, it's Anakin discovering like 9 bombs or whatever all over the place. So like things escalated very quickly, and it's an exact parallel to things that we have seen in our own lives. So really. Also,
really, that last bomb was in like a hospital or something, right?
It was like, right by the
infirmary. Or
the infirmary.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then he ended up needing to go to that infirmary.
He did.
Whew.
Anyways, okay. Well, so Roog was incredibly important to this book. You could argue that this book might not have worked without Roog. So really good stuff there. I want to talk about another character though, who's technically kind of secondary, but also very, very important to the plot of this book, and that's Mil Alabeth. And the first quote that I want to read is from page 59, when she says, "Besides, lightsabers looked neat, and the way they hummed and buzzed, well, that seemed to be the best part of being a Jedi. But lightsabers meant violence, and violence meant suffering." I agree. Lightsabers are the best part of being a Jedi.
You can't really argue with that, to be honest.
Meditation, laser sword. Come on.
On page 177, though, Mil really starts examining that idea a bit more, and is talking to Anakin and says, "Why do we do this? Are we just swinging lightsabers and lifting boxes, or are we building peace?" She got down on his level, determined scowl, now face to face with him under the console. "Peace across the galaxy, peace in yourself. You asked me if I wanted to help people. Well, that's what I'm going to do with you." And then later on page 230, we have this quote. "And though Mil was capable of picking up emotions from everyone around her, Anakin Skywalker remained a mystery. Not because his emotions were hidden. No, it was that they were all there. Each one fighting to be seen and heard, like every color thrown on top of one another to blur themselves out." So the first question I have about Mil is, did you appreciate having a non-traditional Jedi as a main character? And why did that type of character work so well as a counterpart to Anakin?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I actually loved Mil a great deal. Our chat is kind of blowing up with this too. Like, they seem to, everybody loved Mil. She was a great character.
Team Mil.
Yes. I know, everybody's team Mil. Like, she was a really fun character. I love that she was a youngling, right? Like, she's not even a Padawan yet, right? She doesn't have a master. She's a youngling still. And in a lot of ways, she is sort of the antithesis of Anakin, I thought, in this book. Because she's the same way that... Exactly. Yeah, the same way that that Anakin is like really in tune with his emotions and incredibly passionate and kind of a loose cannon in a lot of ways. Mill is also that, but she channels it like into empathy in a way that Anakin doesn't really do. So like I loved her as a character. I loved that like she found all the violence and death overwhelming, whereas Anakin kind of like embraces it. Like what did he say in the Kenobi show? He was like mercy, what did he say? Mercy doesn't win or something like that?
Mercy won't.
Sounds like something he would say.
Yeah, it's not mercy won't save you, but it is like, mercy won't give you victory or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I'm just like, okay, this is like, so.
Mercy won't save you, Padme. What does he say? Episode 3.
I mean, that's where I was going, but it's something. But yeah, it's such an interesting thing having her be such a main character, and I love that she wasn't like the first Padawan, because it still gives Ahsoka that first official role, right?
Yeah.
Because I think Anakin, when he brings Ahsoka on, or is given Ahsoka, is like, hey, all right, I am teacher, you are student, and there's that kind of implied role. But with Mill, it's like she's just a youngling that happens to be around. So he's not putting on the teacher, and I think he's being way more honest and open with her. Everything he tells Mill is pretty vulnerable for him, and I think he speaks almost as openly with her as he does with like Padme and Anakin and Obi-Wan at some points. Yeah. And I really like her questioning, because it is that innocence of a child that Yoda loves so much, right? Like how wonderful the mind of a child is, right? Like if you just listen to children, they're speaking based on their understanding of the world. Like Mill is still trying to figure out what a Jedi is and what the world is. So she's going to ask the questions to, in her mind, one of the great Jedi, who's Anakin. And I loved her way of being like, hey, why are we doing this? What are we doing? Asking questions that Anakin has probably only asked of himself. And I loved that they formed that partnership, which again led to them by the end being so open with each other, which I think we're going to talk about here in a second. I don't want to jump that gun, but like I really loved her pacifism and his intensity kind of going back and forth.
Yeah, she was a good teaching point for Anakin for Ahsoka. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Because they kept reiterating the point. He was like, I can't take on a Padawan. Like, how could I teach somebody? They kept like driving that point home, which was great.
Yeah.
But I thought like towards the end that she was going to like be a sort of a way seeker. She wasn't actually going to stay with the Order. I thought she was going to be like a Orla Jarini or something and start and like go off on her own and go try to help people like with her Force powers, but not actually be within the Jedi Order. So I think staying within the Jedi Order and being like a helper, not actually like in a battle sequence, but as the kind of like a medic, like in a wartime scenario, is super cool. I haven't seen that before.
Yeah. We've got some people in the chat. I think looking back, Stephanie Mack said this first, that Mill was kind of very similar to Emery from the High Republic time period.
Yeah.
And you could also say
Brandon,
Buryaga. I mean, one of those like Force empaths, basically, right? That can actually suffer from how attuned they are to other people's feelings. So it was a good example of a character like that. There is a quote from page 322 that kind of is what Mill's abilities culminated in. And it was when she talked to Anakin for that last time and actually offered him a warning. And it's from page 322. It says, the life of a Jedi in all of the Order's forms meant a life of sacrifice, but not to the point of self-destruction. He could choose differently if someone just gave him permission. If Mill never crossed paths with Anakin Skywalker again, she hopes she might offer a single truth, a drop in the ocean that might ripple out with unseen possibilities. You don't always have to be a sun dragon. All right, I'm going to start making our prompts read only because Corey's typing.
Look where he's messing with
as
us.
I'm reading. You don't always have to be the sun dragon. Why do you think Mill felt that was such an important warning to give Anakin based on what she had experienced with him? Do you think she truly foresaw what he was capable of?
Ooh. Maybe not to the Vader level.
Yeah.
But I think,
maybe not to the Vader.
Hey, I think this guy who seems really nice
thought that, right?
might kill everyone. But I do think that she, because of, like you said, her empathic abilities and literally how Mike Chen writes it within the book, she is able to see that fire contained, I think, in a very specific way. And I think it was just like, hey, I know I don't know a lot, but I don't think anyone's going to say this to you. So you need to hear it once. Because that can because you know, I think a lot of us have that moment. Like if you're going in a dark path or something's going on, it's miraculous sometimes when one person just saying, "Hey, you're gonna be okay." Like that. Sometimes that can change your entire life. So I think that Mill taking that moment after Anakin entrusting her with that, again, like the second or third person he's ever entrusted that to, I thought was really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I know I'm new to this Jedi thing, but I don't think you're doing it right.
He took that story as him, like he needed to be the Sun Dragon, as he needed to be everything. He needed to have all the power, but he needed to have all the wisdom. He needed to be like the end all be all. And she was like, you know, if you fail, it's okay. That is also a teaching moment. I mean, she's so. I just saw that she was so mature for her age and for just being a youngling like that. She's learned so much.
I love that. Yeah, I love that scene at the end with her and Anakin and Yoda, and like they're talking pretty openly about like leaving the Order and stuff. That was very interesting, and I love how consistently writers keep writing Yoda and how he is very neutral about people leaving the Order. Like I love that keeps happening in the last couple of canon books we've gotten. Like that it's not like you can still be part of you can still be like one with the Force, but not a Jedi. Like a Jedi is just a path. It's not like the only path, you know. And it was really cool to see Anakin sort of visibly struggling with that also, like in a youngling, not even a Padawan. A youngling is kind of who guided him in a little bit of a way, which was interesting.
Yeah, I think there's no accident that a lot of writers nowadays, and I mean showrunners, I mean look at Kenobi. I don't think it's any accident that a lot of these books are like, hey, you know what? If you listen to kids, they really know a lot of stuff that could really help you be a chill person. And I'm like, I kind of like that direction we're going in.
Yeah. Yeah, Yoda's super fine with people leaving the Order, you know, if they stay and after they threaten.
We're not a cult. Just be cool. It's fine. It's fine. You can totally leave. You probably shouldn't, but you can leave if you want. It's fine. Like whatever.
But you get 1/4 portion for dinner tonight. And
exactly.
So you brought up Mill wanting to leave the Order and why it was important. You brought up Yoda's reaction to it, but the person whose reaction was the most striking to me was Anakin's. So I want to get your thoughts, because as y'all are saying, when Mill first said like she didn't want to be a Jedi Knight, it very much felt like she was saying she was leaving the Order, not that she was going to go do this other path. And Anakin reacted really supportively. So how does seeing Anakin support Mill's decision to not become a Jedi Knight kind of change your view of his later response to Ahsoka leaving the Order?
I mean, if one of your mentees wants to leave the Jedi, that's on them. If two of your mentees want to leave the Jedi, bro, this might be on you a little bit.
Yeah, you'd think that would be flip-flopped, right? You'd think that he'd be upset with Mill kind of not trying to pursue being a Jedi Knight and then be okay with Ahsoka leaving the Order. It's different.
I think it's different. It's different though. I think it's different. I think first of all, I think Anakin at this time in his life is different Anakin than he was in when Ahsoka. I mean, he was almost Revenge of the Sith Anakin when Ahsoka left the Order. It was very close, right?
Yeah.
A couple, maybe months, I would say, maybe months from that. So, you know, I think Anakin is different at that point. Like his values are different. Also, I think the sheer like reason that both of these Jedi left the Order were completely different, right?
That's
like,
true.
and Anakin is totally projecting about Ahsoka because Ahsoka left the Jedi Order because of the failings of the Order. The Order failed her, right? And Anakin at this point in his life is like, he's chosen to overlook all the flaws of the Jedi Order, and like that he's going to choose this lifestyle even though the Jedi is so flawed. Whereas Mill is like, she's leaving the Order because she's listening to the Force in a lot of ways. Like it's
right,
so I think those ideas are very different. And like with Ahsoka, not only was Anakin incredibly attached to Ahsoka, I feel like he's in a lot of ways projecting his own problems and his own desire to leave the Order on Ahsoka leaving, and how she's not allowed to leave because of what she leaves behind, just as Anakin is not allowed to leave because of what he will leave behind. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of very interesting parallels here, and I really love that this was a choice that the writer took, like to tell this story about this Jedi, especially with Anakin being like the master in the situation.
Yeah. I also like it. This reminds me, I know we talked about Imri Kantaros earlier in the show. This also reminded me a lot about Lula Telisola, speaking of another High Republic Jedi in the High Republic Adventures, who at the end of that run decides, hey, I don't think I'm going to become a Jedi Knight right now because her relationship with Zine and her some other things were like, I'm not there yet, so I'm going to take a step back. I think Mill reminds me almost more of her than Ahsoka, because I think Ahsoka is like, the Jedi Order is corrupt, I'm leaving, this is not right, versus Mill and Lula seem to be like, I could be better used elsewhere, I'm not quite ready for that step. That's not where I'm going to go. Like you said, Corey, being called by the Force. And I think, interestingly, if the Jedi had originally been like, hey, we have multiple career paths you can go on, maybe it would have been a little easier. But I think, honestly, people like Mill, people like Lula are more tuned into the Force, are more connected to what a Jedi actually probably should be than a lot of those that are just like, well, I got to be a knight. Well, I got to be a knight. Well, I got to be a knight. So I think that, Ahsoka was finally the one that said, those paths aren't open to me. It's not even that. The Order has gotten even more corrupt because of the whole war happening. And I wonder if this story was kind of post-Clone Wars in a way like Ahsoka's, if Mill would have been a little more extreme in her decision versus becoming a combat medic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rug and Mill are going to round out who we talk about here in the character section. We just have a few big overarching questions before we move on to Easter eggs. And the very first question that I have for y'all is, first and foremost, the business on Cato Neimoidia. Did it count?
I think so. Anakin literally, he was getting shot at, right? I mean, Obi-Wan might have made it out, but I think it counts.
Okay.
I don't think it counts.
No?
I don't think it counts. No, I think he had it kind of under control. He got away, right? He was, a couple times.
Technically, his lightsaber was on the way to his hand when Anakin jumped in and knocked it out of the way.
Exactly, and he turned himself in. He didn't just get captured. So,
I do have to say that this being the quote unquote canon Cato Neimoidia story now is very funny, considering the Legends Cato Neimoidia story was basically Obi-Wan accidentally bumped into like a box full of LSD and got super high and stumbled back to where they were going, was super crazy, and Anakin had to carry him, and he's just super high out of his mind. That was the Legends version of that. So I appreciate that this one is legitimately like Anakin was actually involved in saving him. So I like that they didn't just make it pure humor this time.
We talk a lot about the difference between canon and legend. Sometimes the difference is very simple. Every once in a while.
Yeah.
Oh,
every once in a while, it's a case full of mushrooms. Yeah.
No, it is fun though to go back and rewatching that movie and hearing that line, and you'll think about this novel.
That's a good
point.
point.
Never not think about it now.
So, but what are we saying as a show? So I voted yes. Wes voted no.
Voted no.
Does it count as saving him?
Vote no?
I vote no too. Yeah.
All right.
I don't think he saved him, man. I think Obi-Wan was about to get his own ass out of that situation.
All right, well, you are all the reason Anakin never feels valued and becomes Darth Vader. So, all right. What's the next question?
All right. Man. Well,
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie. It counts.
We've talked a lot about the failings of the Jedi, maybe Anakin being one of those, but I want to talk a little bit about the failings of the Republic, because a lot of that was brought into light in this novel, and we saw the Republic as an entity kind of questioned more strongly than maybe we have in a lot of other mediums. On page 148, we have this quote: "In a time when Jedi planned military operations, Padawans became soldiers, and a clone army appeared out of nowhere. All of the clear delineations of roles, of protocols, of morality itself suddenly disappeared, leaving only a fuzzy definition of what right and wrong were supposed to be." So let's start there for a minute. First, looking at the Jedi as part of the Republic, how they were kind of folded into the grand army of the Republic. What did you think about kind of getting the closest look we ever have at how quickly Jedi found themselves part of an army? Because there are a lot of moments where they're like, "Why are you calling me general? How did this happen?"
Yeah. Which we have just accepted because of the show. We're like,
exactly.
But
It seemed very sudden.
Yeah,
and very sprung
they
upon.
named the government thing this time, right? The act in the Senate. It was the Jedi Militarization Act or something like that. What was it? Is that what it was?
Oh, I forgot about
Jedi.
that.
It was right at the end there. Here, keep talking.
Yeah,
it was one of the
It was
last chapters.
like Jedi Militarization Act or something like that. Which I was like, that's the whatever that was called was pretty like brutal and like as a word, like just as a name for it of like, wow, this is very Jedi Army like sounding. Like, I don't know. Yeah, that was really cool. I like getting that. All the questioning of Anakin enjoying the power, right? Of being a military leader. That was kind of heavily featured through the book too.
He had a lot of moments where he was like, I can tell these guys to do anything and they will
he did.
listen to me. Like,
He did. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Yeah, it was he was just getting that test of, okay, so I'm a Jedi, so I am a general, a Jedi and his master, a Jedi and a Padawan that would go to a world and help, like, smooth things over. Sometimes, have to escalate to lightsabers, but usually just you're there to discuss. But now with having a battalion and like having to change your mindset to where you're actually destroying droids for the most part, it's got to be like killer on your mental ambition.
Yeah, well, and it was really weird because like a lot of our favorite designs in Star Wars from a costuming standpoint are Clone Wars. Like the Clone War armor for Obi-Wan and Anakin is badass, right? It's I mean the Funkos that I have next to me right now are that armor. They're incredible. I love it. But the chapter where they're like getting it and putting it on, it's like, oh, I mean, cool. Oh, right, because you can't just use a robe because now you're going to battle. Huh, okay, odd. And then when Mill especially is like, hey, I think I want to be a medic instead of being 12 and going to the front lines, you're like, no, that makes it, wait, of course, that should be the, like, but that's the odd choice. I think it's really, it's funny because Mike Chen could be a little more overt. If it was not written as well, I think it could have been a little like, this is stupid, right? But he really writes it deftly because it honors the lore. It honors the choice of a lot of the it doesn't make the Clone Wars seem awful. It doesn't like look down on it, but it really just kind of makes you reckon with it and be like, maybe sending kids to war is bad. And maybe, Anakin and Obi-Wan, had they not had war experience, maybe they wouldn't have been as tight, but also if Anakin can meditate more, like it just really brought it into a new perspective. And I enjoyed that perspective. Again, I think we always talk about the books are at their best when they retroactively expand your view on previous media, right? And I think that's exactly what it did.
Yeah, that's a really good point about Anakin and Obi-Wan having a tighter relationship because of the Clone Wars. Like I listened to a lot of podcasts with Navy SEALs and some of the soldiers in the wars from overseas, and they're brothers till the day they die. They're closer than family. And so having that relationship with Obi-Wan and Anakin because of those battles within the Clone Wars, it makes total sense. And that was really well written by Mike Chen.
Absolutely.
Well, beyond the scope of the Jedi themselves, there was a really interesting passage here from page 212. And this is Anakin, and he thinks individuals made wrong decisions, but the institutions in their life, he wanted to say that, of course, they were trustworthy, that they were the foundation that everything was built upon. How trustworthy they were, though, depended on the people in them. As long as morally sound people like Padme, like Palpatine, steered those institutions, they'd be safe. Keeping those people in power, though, meant finding and confronting bad actors, especially the ones in the shadows. Well, for all the talk about the unseen forces playing both sides that they discover in this book, people operating in the shadows, all of that, the Jedi really got no closer to figuring anything out. And of course they didn't. That was the boundary of the book. But do you question why Anakin is so loyal to an institution whose failures arguably led to many of the hardships of his life? The slavery that he was born into, the death of his mother, the Jedi taking him away. Why is he so fiercely loyal to this institution?
Charles, that might be one of the biggest questions of life. I think, like, overall, I think that, like, every person at some point, I think, has that moment of wherever you're born, and, like, in real life, wherever you're born, whatever you look up to, however you're raised, sometimes you have a moment where you step back and you're like, the things that have made my life hard, I have been helping in whatever way. And it's a really shocking moment. And I think that, some folks double down and say, great, I'm going to change these systems. I'm going to be a part of it and make sure it doesn't happen to anyone again, which I think is what Anakin is kind of trying to do here. But then there's other people that are like, burn it down. Like, you can't just fix it. We got to start over. And I think that's any system. I mean, the last 10 years, look at life, right? It's like everyone is like, I have been believing in a system that does not believe in me. And is it all run by people that don't care about me? It is Star Wars. It is real life. It's poetry. It rhymes. But in Star Wars, I think that Anakin is such a great catalyst for this because the Republic does, in its way, take him out of slavery. It rescues him from Tatooine, gives him a home, gives him meals, gives him friends, gives him family. Absolutely. But like we're saying, at the same time, leaving the Jedi isn't quite an option. So it kind of traps him in that. Then it puts him in the middle of a war, but it also gives him power and leadership. Like it gives him and takes away everything constantly. And I think that struggle is so fascinating to witness. And I think wherever you are in your life as you read this book and read about Anakin Skywalker, you can find yourself on his journey, which is what I think makes him one of the most three-dimensional characters in all Star Wars. It's incredible.
Definitely.
I'm
Any other thoughts?
I'm kind of torn, right? I'm kind of torn about that because, yes, the Jedi Order got Anakin out of slavery and helped him learn and progress his powers and get in tune with the Force. But if the Jedi Order had not been there to take him, or if Qui-Gon had not been there to take him to the Jedi Order, would his mother still be alive, and would he have to think about that the entire time? I think that's why I'm torn. I think he goes back and forth. I think he knows that being with the Jedi Order is the right path for him to take, but damn it, does it hurt just to have that possibility of maybe not going with Qui-Gon that day and say, Mom, I'm going to stay with you. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, who among us, if bad things happen in your life, do you not look back and be like, had I not gone, had I not trusted this person, had I not done this, it's so hard not to internalize. Had I not started this podcast with these fools, would I have every Monday night or Tuesday night open? I think it is very real.
Think of how much you could have accomplished. God.
Exactly. Should have gotten residency done so much quicker.
You'd just be playing video games.
That's fair.
Let's be honest.
All right,
you can't second guess yourself is what I'm trying to get to. You probably just can't second guess. You can't do a lot of what ifs because that's just going to drive you crazy and make you a Dark Lord.
Anakin was also raised by the Jedi who basically did nothing but brainwash him the entire time since he was a kid about yes, there's lots of evil in the galaxy, but the Jedi are doing their best, and we all try to be the ideal versions of ourselves. And he was probably around that his whole life, right? Yeah. So
I'm sure he heard about it as a kid too, right? As a kid, he's probably the Jedi, the amazing Jedi.
Oh, yeah. No one can kill a Jedi. Yeah. That's what he knows. Yeah. And I think it's interesting, the biggest question we always have about Anakin, right? Or one of the biggest ones is what if he would have told Obi-Wan about him and Padme? What if they would have been honest and said, hey, the system that we serve is broken. It does not allow this kind of love. I think that's wrong. Let us work together as trusted friends to change the system to forevermore be better. And he didn't do that because that's just not how it works. And I think that's a lot of folks in all kinds of systems of life is this is hurting me. This system is corrupt. This is not right. But having the strength to reach out and say, hey, this might screw me over personally, but I need to fix it. It takes a lot more courage than I think a lot of folks give it credit for. Yeah. And Anakin just not doing that and assuming he can do it all his own eventually led to the downfall. And what if he had told Mill? What if he had told Obi-Wan? What if he had told Roog? I don't know. If anyone had the moment of let's change this, because I do think that's what Roog is trying to do with the Neimoidians. She sees what's corrupt with the Trade Federation, and she is actively working against it and suffering for it sometimes. She's losing her reputation, and Anakin just doesn't quite get there with the Jedi. And again, so close. It's so close in Star Wars every time.
Well, on that note, I think we move on.
This book makes me sad, guys. I'm not gonna lie. This is
it is sad.
Maybe we're not gonna be okay. I don't know.
This is still a tragedy, but let's get to some more lighthearted things. Maybe let's talk about some Easter eggs, some connective tissue, and just some random thoughts. And I want to start this section off with a shout out to Mike Chen specifically. Mike, Mr. Chen, if you're watching this, thank you so much, man, because this is always my job on these roundtables. And you literally had a Twitter thread where you listed out a ton of these Easter eggs. Never had an author do that, at least not in so much detail. So that was much appreciated. I kind of picked and chose some, threw some of my own in there as well. We'll run through them like we always do. So the first one's from page 12, when Mace says, remember that war is like a fire across the galaxy. And that is a reference to the Tartakovsky Clone Wars microseries, when the show opens with Yoda stating that like fire across the galaxy, the Clone Wars spread. So starting it off with a shout out to
this book had you from page 12,
it absolutely
man.
Seriously, man.
Oh, it absolutely did. Page 18, apparently the Katasura district of Cato Neimoidia, where the city fell, or part of the bridge city fell, is named after Cade Sura, the protagonist of fellow Star Wars author Michael Morici's Black Star Renegade series.
Oh, friend of the show.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Spelled exactly
Nice.
the same way.
I love that.
From page 25, we have this quote. He continued to watch Anakin, who took a moment to gather himself before stopping to talk with Jaro Tapal and the red-haired youngling who trailed him. Now, that would be Cal Kestis.
Holy
Yes.
smokes. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Nice.
so Anakin Skywalker had a very brief interaction with Cal Kestis.
And
Good
Jaro
stuff.
to Paul.
Yes,
What a great name.
R.I.P. On page 27, the Coruscant underground speeder races that were run by this mobster family, the family, right? It seemed to be a callback to 2000's Rogue Planet by Greg Bear, in which these races happened through the garbage pits of the underlevels, and Anakin was always wanting to race in them, and he did get to race in them in that book, and we knew that it was a very similar thing in this story. So
Yeah. Also, we didn't mention it. I don't know if it's coming in a filler Easter egg, but that reminds me, like, the fact that Anakin watches, like, bootlegs of pod races on his, like, cell phone is, like, the best thing in the world. He's like, I don't know.
He does it. He does it in the freaking cafeteria on a public TV, right? He like hacks that thing and
he
like
just,
watches it and. Exactly.
That's like
I wasn't
me at every
watching
theater
anything.
tech rehearsal where I had, like, the NFL playoffs on. I'm like, on my iPad. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, what do you want from me? It's the playoffs. I love that.
a little later on page 30, an HK assassin unit is mentioned, just like HK-47 from KOTOR, but this one was actually polite. It wasn't like HK-47. On page 31, we have this quote: despite their marriage, their lives have prevented them from living as such. What with Padme handling things like the situation on Hebeker Minor and Anakin bouncing around the galaxy. Well, the Hebeker Minor situation was detailed in Queen's Hope by E.K. Johnston. So
That's right.
if you're curious what Padme was doing, go pick that book up. On page 31, Padme is thinking about Anakin, or talking to Anakin. It says, I don't think you need a disguise. Without your Padawan braid, no one's going to recognize you. I'm sorry. What?
Wasn't she was being facetious though, wasn't she? I thought.
I don't know. I took it at face value. Maybe it went right over my head, but I was
check.
I was
Look, watch.
intrigued.
Wes,
That's a choice.
I can't get it off. Screw
Come
it.
on.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
All right. Well, speaking of Anakin's hair, on page 32, Padme says, I'm actually going to miss your short hair. And Anakin responds, maybe I'll grow it out to annoy you. Have you seen how Obi-Wan's hair flows in the back? And she says, no, please, anything but that, prompting them both to break into laughter. Well, first of all, shots fired at Obi-Wan.
Yes.
I love your flow. But the joke's on Padme, because Anakin does actually grow his hair out.
That's
So-
true.
There's multiple references to Obi-Wan's
Obi-Wan's hair.
mullet. Yeah.
There's a lot of references to it. Yeah.
Same page, 32. Anakin is observing the Coruscant underworld, and he says, with the layers of structures too dense to reveal the sun, life felt encapsulated in a bubble here. And that's a possible reference back to the Obi-Wan and Anakin comic, when Palpatine brings Anakin down to the underworld and he tells him that the rarest resource on Coruscant is the sky.
Wow.
Yeah,
Dang,
great moment there.
interesting.
That gets the Corey Helton.
Yeah, Listen, it's got depth. I love the Easter eggs that have a lot of depth to them. Like either the author is one that notices them, or it takes like a Charles deep dive on Wikipedia to find it. Like occasionally this happen.
And that one literally has depth because it's very low below the surface.
Deep. On page 35, this was a cool one. Noxie Kell, Jocasta News assistant, was named after Kelly Knox, who helped Mike Chen with factoids for this book and has obviously done her own projects in her own right. But
that's called a Tuckerism. Fun fact: whenever authors put people's names into books.
Interesting.
If anyone wants to Tuckerize me, DM me, be fine.
Yeah, it's like Jink West. Jink West, that's a good one.
My name backwards is Kyer Nesrelli. Like that is a Star Wars.
That's very
name.
Star Wars. That's very Star Wars. It's also very good.
My first name backwards sounds like for sure a punk, like just a punk. I don't know.
Well, now you gotta say it.
Cell Rash, like Charles Cell Rash.
Cell Rash?
Cell Rash sounds like a just you hate
Cell Rash sounds like a
Cell Rash is
terrible
absolutely
food.
a species. Like Kyer Nesrelli has to go help the Cell Rash.
Yeah.
This book is writing itself. All right. And then Corey Horn can also be a part of that story.
Absolutely.
All right, page 37.
Please, no.
Obi-Wan and Dex eat sick 6-layer cake, which is a cake created by Gregory Walker for just the Legends article on the hyperspace section of StarWars.com in 2009. But it was later brought to canon in a specifically reissue of What is a Wookiee in 2015. That was a reference book that was initially released in 2005.
Wow.
But six-layer cake, not until the reissue in 2015.
That's great.
Good stuff.
Paid him off in layer cake to get information out of him.
That's right.
On page 44, carbonite is used to encase Anakin's Padawan braid, which, logical next step was to try it with a human, for sure. On the same page, Padme and Anakin share some frozen Joral cream, which is a delicacy first introduced in Lando's Luck. On page 45, we have this quote: "She was always thinking about how to make things better, just like when she sent Sabe to Tatooine in a quest to free those enslaved there." So again, we see a reference to the Queen's Trilogy by E.K. Johnston. Actually, same page again. Padme is noted to, quote, "squinch her nose up." And that's a mannerism that specifically came from E.K. Johnston in Queen's Hope.
Squinch her nose up.
Now, here's a fun one. Page 55, we have this quote: "Ki-Adi-Mundi tented his fingers and leaned forward, scars still healing across his cheeks from his recent encounter with General Grievous." Well, now, when did Ki-Adi-Mundi face off with General Grievous? Only in the Battle of Haipuri, which was first shown in chapter 20.
Ever heard of it?
Of Tartakovsky's Clone Wars microseries. Though that battle actually was canonized, Corey, by James Luceno in Catalyst. I don't know if you
really?
know.
I did not know that. Yeah.
Mentioned in that book.
Interesting.
Yeah. Page 59, Professor Hugh Yang. I never know exactly how to say it. He's mentioned. The droid professor.
Yeah, that's the droid professor, right? Yeah.
He's mentioned. There's a
David
whole
Tennant
bunch
voiced
of...
him.
Yes. Yeah,
that's the one.
The best doctor. Fight me. What?
No, you're right. I'm not going to fight you.
There's a lot of talk about pod racing. On page 44, there was children playing with a toy pod racer. On page 63, that's when we got Anakin in the Jedi cafeteria watching a pod race. And on page 75, the cherry on top, the actual Fire Mountain Rally, that specific pod race was mentioned. And if you've ever played the Nintendo 64 pod racer game, you know that that's one of the tracks in that game.
Wow.
So,
yes!
Incredible. Bravo.
How has no one done a full-length pod race in a Star Wars book ever since
it
Phantom
makes no
Menace?
sense.
How has it never happened? Please, authors, someone put a full pod race scene in a book, not just casually watching it. I want a whole scene.
It was on
Like a
that
chapter.
at Celebration, right? They put that big kind of collage up of different characters and things.
They
said
did.
Things were coming, and one of the things was a pod racer. So
Yeah, they mentioned pod racing, so maybe we'll get the full. We'll get the full
If
game.
we get a pod racing book and a Therm Scissor Punch appearance in the same year, I'm good. I'm good.
Therm.
That's funny.
all right, on page 64, Obi-Wan thinks perhaps peace could be negotiated if we all watched sports and drank ale together. that's Eric's life philosophy.
That's it, man. That's it.
Watch sports and drink ale.
Just don't be an Eagles fan.
Or a 76ers fan. Just don't be from Philadelphia.
Don't Philadelphia. I'm sorry, guys. We love you all.
On page 93.
Slowly, our influence crushes to nothing out of Philadelphia.
Wait, real quick. Wes, how do you feel about the Phillies?
Oh, I am a big Charlie Hustle fan, so sorry, man.
I don't know what that means, Wes. How do you feel about the Phillies?
So, Wes, how do you feel about this?
Oh man!
All right.
Everybody hates me. Who cares?
The Darth
That's
Vader
a
going
my
on
life
this year.
philosophy, Wes.
2022 World Series champs.
Oh my god.
Oh dear.
Yes, banging on the trash
Get
can.
out the Astros trash can. That's appropriate.
Drumming on a street light, playing on my banjo. That's a Doug reference. All right, anyway, you go.
All right.
That went off the rails.
What?
Doug, like Quail Man.
Show.
Quail Man?
Pork
Doug?
chop,
What
Doug?
the hell?
Yeah.
Where's the scuff?
Banging on
We
a
are-
trash can, drumming on a street light. It's when they make a band.
I don't remember
We
that,
are
but
off the
banjo.
damn rails, guys. Holy smokes.
his
tables.
best friend's name was Skeeter Valentine, and his
Yeah, it
girlfriend's
was
name was
Patty
Patty Mayonnaise. I
Mayonnaise.
remember that.
Roger Clark.
Skeeter? I want my nickname to be Skeeter from now on, guys. Can you
right.
introduce me next week on the show?
Yeah, guess what, Corey? It won't be. Charles, what do you got next?
Dear God. All right, on page 93,
Sorry,
Anakin. This is about Anakin. As a Jedi, you'll encounter many different people. Some of them you'll see again and again, and other times your paths will only cross for the briefest of moments. But you can learn from every one of those encounters because every being in the galaxy has something to offer. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of patience to find it. And I just wanted to call that line out. Let's say that's our show's philosophy, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
Everyone,
Totally.
Yeah.
everyone belongs in Star Wars, and we're all here for a reason. So just sit back.
Yeah.
On page 104, Braca is mentioned.
Yep.
The planet from Jedi Fallen Order and Resistance Reborn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Underrated planet that we all wish we could have played on more in Fallen Order.
Agreed.
Too soon.
I know.
On page 108, Palpatine says, Master Windu can go on for hours about shatter points, but perhaps that lack of empathy is his very own shatter point. So
Yeah.
nice callback. First of all, burn on Mace Windu. Total burn. Second of all, nice callback to Mace Windu's unique force ability, the namesake of the 2003 novel Shatterpoint by Matthew Stover.
First of all, burn.
He can go on. He can go on about Shatterpoints. Maybe this is his Shatterpoint. Oh, is that from the novel Shatterpoint?
I know,
Could be.
seriously. This book crapped on Mace Windu a couple times, actually.
A lot.
Yeah,
there
dude,
was
there
that
was a-
moment
Good.
where Anakin was teaching the younglings, and Mace, for no reason, walked by, looked in, glared, and walked away. Like,
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that'd be glaring. That was just freaking hilarious, man.
Good.
It
All right.
was also implied that everybody kind of hates him too. Like
that's
like-
that's actually kind of becoming like a canon thing more. That like Mace
It is.
really was a jerk, and people knew that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right,
funny.
page 115. Nyx is mentioned, the very material that nearly caused the Civil War and the Chiss
Oh,
Ascendancy,
yeah,
as
that's right.
Yeah.
featured
Wow.
in Zahn's
nice.
Thrawn Ascendancy series.
It's rad.
On page 131, Sister the Trans Clone makes an appearance.
Yes,
And,
sister.
yeah, exactly. Just recently introduced in E.K. Johnson's Queen's Hope.
Happy Pride Month, sister.
On page
2 days
130
left. We made it.
We just made it. On page 136, we have this quote: "The weather mix also created an accumulation of blue-tinted sand, just thick enough to be annoying, yet not quite a way of life. Still, it got in the joints of his mechanical hand, even when he'd covered it with a tight-fitting glove. The convoy away, Anakin removed the glove and tried to blow some grit out of his knuckles. See, he said to no one in particular, no one believes me, but it gets everywhere." Probably the biggest fan servicey moment in the book, but it was good.
Yeah.
It was good. Page 148, we have this quote: "The last time Obi-Wan was in a bar, he nudged a young man to go home and rethink his life, then severed the arm of a would-be assassin." So call back to Elon Sleaze Bagano or Sleaze Bagano.
He's bagging
Bagano.
up.
Gotta love it.
Yes.
Oh man.
Just on the next page, there's also the quotes, and he gave himself time to have a drink, which I think was a callback to Where Are You Going, Master, for a drink.
Absolutely.
Found himself in a bar. Why not? On page 177, Anakin. This is about Anakin. This was why he'd never, ever considered dealing with the Padawan. He knew how stubborn they were. That was him mere months ago. And so, Wes, you brought it up earlier. Anakin thinks so many times throughout this book he could never have a Padawan. And we know he does just very shortly after this book. On page 180, Force Sprint is used. Not commonly seen, but gotta love that.
Only
love the Force Sprint.
Once, actually.
Where does where does that rank in all Force powers? Force Sprint, like number 7?
Sucks. It's one of those shitty light side powers that you don't want to use, but you have to spend your Force points on it. Yeah, it's one of those.
Like in Jedi Fallen Order.
Okay, if a Jedi could only Force Sprint, guess what? He's the Flash.
That's it.
That's still so cool. Like,
Right.
All right. On page 189, Obi-Wan. This is about Obi-Wan. He recalled a wall where he'd found data chips hidden by a Jedi long ago on the planet Lenara. And that's a reference to the events from the upcoming novel Padawan by Kirsten White. Because that line fits up perfectly with what we know from the synopsis of what's going to happen.
Oh, I had just started that, and that's all I can say.
On page 197, about Mace Windu. In all of the challenges that Mace had faced down recently, from taking down Jango Fett with a single lightsaber swipe to staring down an overwhelming wave of super battle droids on Dantooine, ... The quote goes on. But again, the wave of super battle droids on Dantooine, that's the whole episode of Tartakovsky's Clone.
They're on
Dantooine. That's the one where the clones are like kicking so much ass, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that where they're like,
There's
and
no,
he hits the guy and he kicks with their gun and he's like, yeah, that one.
there's no dialogue. It's just all action scene for like most of the show.
It's the little kid that watches Mace just destroy these people, right?
He jumps off a sandcrawler or something and like destroys.
It's a big tank. Yeah, it's a big tank.
Yeah.
And then he lands next to the kid on the hill, and the kid offers him some water, and he takes a sip, and then he jumps right back into the action. That's how the episode ends. Yeah. But I always notice when he jumps away, his Force essence or whatever knocks that kid's hat off, and it blows away.
Interesting.
Come on, Mace.
It's rude. You know who would hate that? you know who would hate Mace Windu because of that? Snoke.
Yes.
Because his stupid hat would fall off.
Maybe that kid got a better hat because of it.
They didn't sell those at Celebration.
We can only hope.
With the ear flaps. On page 201, Obi-Wan wondered if Qui-Gon had foreseen all of this. The fact that Qui-Gon would forever tie two opposing forces together, their partnership always edging towards spinning out of control, but always, always finding a way to make a happy landing. Another happy landing. Right?
Yeah.
On page 251, this was a great reference. The Mogonite bounty hunter on Vassid is mentioned, and that's a reference to Gizman, the bounty hunter from Shadows of the Empire.
Wow.
Our very good friend on the Cosmic Force, Emma Park's favorite book.
Yes.
She loves Shadows of the Empire.
On page 285, on Anakin and Padme's secure comm channel, we have a quote about that, because in some ways those letters and numbers held their marriage up across the stars. So of course using the very name of the John Williams track.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Very good.
On page 291, Obi-Wan flexed his fingers over his lightsaber hilt, then whirled it into a ready position, his right hand high behind him while the blade lay parallel to the floor, the heat from it palpable against his cheeks. His weight rested on his back foot and his left arm extended fully, 2 fingers out for precise balance. For the Republic, he said.
Yeah.
It's a classic Obi-Wan pose. Gotta love it.
Maybe we'll talk about that next week. Who knows?
Yeah, that might come up. On page 321, Rig Nema is mentioned, and that's a consular Jedi that heals Yoda in the Clone Wars Season 6 Lost Missions.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And lastly, on 321, the planet Valo is mentioned, the site of the Republic Fair from Kevin Scott's The Rising Storm. Yeah, a lot of High Republic love.
That's where Mill's going, right? She's going to Valo.
Yeah.
She was going to Valo. Yeah, right. So gotta love that we're working in High Republic stuff into all these other eras.
I legit get so giddy whenever it gets brought into modern canon, because obviously, now that it exists, it does feel like in Legends when they would mention something about like Bane or mention something about like that.
Yeah.
That is the exact feeling that I get now. It's really so fun.
Yeah. It permeates through all the stories, and that's gonna be really fun, especially once High Republic is concluded or whatever, and we know what the big story is. Then it can really leak into its influence and stuff. So I can't wait for that.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, back when the Mad Titan Avar Kriss killed everyone but 4 Jedi in the Order, like what the hell? Who knows? I don't think so, but
Maybe.
who knows? Maybe, but maybe.
Well, that's the last Easter egg that we have, but I would like to end this roundtable in a very specific way. So, Eric, if you would grab your hymnal, as you would say,
absolutely,
and turn to page 329, will you just read the way that this book ended? This passage about Anakin and Obi-Wan that I just think was so perfectly done.
All right, let's see here. Those 2 little blue lights buzzed through the droids from behind, cutting through them like a knife through Nerf butter. The battle droids finally noticed that their numbers were rapidly diminishing, and nearly in sync, they all turned and began a hail of outward blaster fire. And the red blaster bolts spiraled off in every direction, the blue glows deflecting them as easily as rain bouncing off a speeder's windshield. The blue beams moved in complete harmony, 2 ends of an infinite tether. One, a blunt instrument attacking with frightening speed and power, and the other, a graceful dance of precise violence. Where one moved, the other complemented. Where one attacked, the other defended. Where one swept, the other struck. They charged through the battalion, brilliant laser swords in a controlled hurricane that whipped apart row upon row of battle droids until the last one fell with a mechanized groan. They moved forward in determined silence towards Roog, her hand gripped beneath her, dirt and shed corgi fur between her fingers, and eyes blinking through the thick Cato Neimoidian air, pulse quickening as she saw her future in front of her. Through the mist, 2 silhouettes emerged, the glow of their blades giving off enough light to eliminate any doubt of who approached, of who could pull off something as impossible as this rescue. There stood Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, brothers in arms of the Jedi Order, and together they were unstoppable.
That gives the Corey grunt right there.
That's it, man. That's the book.
What do you think happened?
That's the universe.
They didn't tell us what happened at the end. What do you think happened?
No, I don't know.
Dies.
And they were not fast enough. Anyway,
even in that passage alone, Nerf butter, nice reference, and corgi fur, nice reference. Mike Chen is a big dog person. If you go on his Twitter, he's always posting doggos. But yeah, wonderful way to end the book. I mean, really just again set the stage. It was one of those Revenge of the Sith novelization passages for me. Like it felt like something we could have read from that book. Mm-hmm. Anyways, guys, that's it. That's the end of the roundtable. I just want to take one last chance here to go back around. Give any final commentary you have on this book and what it meant to you. The floor is yours.
Mike Chen killed it. I got to say, I really do. I really think he killed it. Book was super fun to read. I think it added a lot of value, especially right before the Kenobi show. I enjoyed it. Like end to end, I would read it again. Highly recommend it. It goes up there for me in one of the best like standalone books that's been written in new canon. I really enjoyed it. Like, it was fantastic. I mean, it just had a lot to offer, and I've really enjoyed talking about it with you guys. You made me like it even more, and I really appreciated the Easter eggs. I think all authors should do that from now on.
Yeah.
A Twitter thread, thread with Easter eggs, because especially for stuff that we don't know, like I wouldn't have gotten the Kelly Knox thing, like just because I would have caught that. I'm not smart enough for that, so I would have liked to. Those are cool. So please, authors, keep doing that, and overall, just fantastic experience. Great book.
So this book, this was the first one that I have listened to twice. So I listened to it all the way through, and then I just restarted it and listened to it again. It wasn't too terribly long, which is a plus. But one thing I really enjoyed was giving us the transition from Jedi to generals, because it made it seem like it wasn't seamless. It was super difficult. It was straining on their mentality of what should they do? Should they be Jedi and not like go towards violence, or should they be generals and just absolutely go towards the mission and get some kind of finality. So I appreciated that they put in some struggle with that, and it wasn't just, okay, now we're generals, and you start, taking out droids. So that was one thing that I think that we needed, because there wasn't really that transition that we've seen, whether it be movies or whether it be TV shows. I haven't really read anything in the comics about that, but I'm sure there was something. But I'm glad I read it in this book.
Yeah, I completely agree. As happens with like every book we read, talking about it with you guys has just made me really just love this book so much. I think Mike Chen really did something we haven't seen in Star Wars a lot. I think he was kind of really unrestrained as far as comparing this world to our world, bringing in some real life things. And I think that as hard as it was, like we said, for some of those things, as dark as they may have gotten, it really created a book that made you think. And I think the best Star Wars books make us think about the real world while expanding the Star Wars universe. And this did both of those so well, and really just made Obi-Wan and Anakin that duo that, I mean, God, we miss. And that was never around for long enough. And I cannot imagine this is Mike Chen's one and only full-length novel in Star Wars after this. I think it was so fun, and I can't wait for him to write something else again. But that being said, I need more Obi-Wan and Anakin. I need more Roog. I need more Mill. And I won't say no to more Padme and Anakin car sex.
The first thing that you said in part one was, we got car sex. And like, that was the first thing you said.
Lest we forget.
I agree with everything y'all said. This was a ton of fun. I love still how much prequel love that we're getting. I mean, I'm just eating that up. My reaction is to more Obi-Wan is Kylo Ren's reaction to more blaster fire at Luke. More.
It's going to be wild for you, Charles, because you're going to get Brotherhood, Padawan, and an entire television show about your favorite character all within like 4 months of each other. You're going to go into such a depression next year when it's just like normal content. Like you got to start preparing for that.
I know, but not today. Not today.
That's right.
All right, y'all. Well, that's all we have for the roundtable. Thank you so much for being here. Throw any Easter eggs we missed in the chat. Let us know any of those, and please join us for the next one, which is in Check's Watch. I don't know, 2 weeks, something like that.
Okay, we got a little bit of time. This is a thick boy book. But yes, we got another month to our next roundtable. We'll let you know. Obviously, plenty of time ahead of that. Before we get out of here, Charles, as always, absolutely killed it on this roundtable outline, the summaries, the questions, the quotes. They make it so much easier to set the Youtinis at the end of the year, so that's very much helpful for us. Awesome job, dude. I'm so glad that they're giving you your boy because of that. You've been in all this work for non-Obi-Wan books, and it's finally coming to roost, so it feels good. All right. Well, folks, speaking of Obi-Wan, be sure to join us next week, back to Monday, our normal night, where we'll be talking all about Season 1, maybe the only season of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We'll see. But for right now, that'll do it for this roundtable and this week's episode of The Living Force. If you support us on Patreon, thank you so much for that support. I hope you're enjoying all the new behind-the-scenes content we're throwing up on there now every week or so. But of course, you can join at youtini.com/Patreon or patreon.com/Youtini. A special thank you to Brian Dooley, Patrick Ortiz, Earl Q, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and Elizabeth Cloutier and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command. You can find us on Twitter at Eric Eilerson, at Corey M. Helton, at C. Hankel, at Foss West, and of course at Living Force Pod and at Youtini_US. A special thank you to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, Ryan, our graphic designer extraordinaire, and Wes, our producer and community manager. Thank you to Corey, Charles, and Wes for podding with me on a Tuesday. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening, and as always, may the Force be with you.